we're going to first design the car, then we'll saw and sand it, then we're going to decorate it with markers and decals, then we're going to test it on our little track, and last we're going to race it, and then we're going to find out how fast the car is going. Let's have our students join me now, getting ready to do our racing. Okay. Back with my group of students, Leslie, Melvin, and Laura. Okay, students, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start working on designing the car. The first step in designing the car is that the students need to decide how they're going to change the car and to pre-mark it with pencils for each cut that they're going to make. The next step is to actually cut the block of wood using a hand saw. The use of the miter box is advised, for it will make the sawing both safer and easier. Students need to be supervised carefully during this part of the activity to prevent possible injury. The car body can then be smoothed by sanding away any rough spots. Sanding blocks can be made by wrapping the sandpaper around a block of wood. The next step is to put the wheels on by using the nails provided. It is important to insert the nails straight in the slots provided. Decorating their car gives the students an opportunity to use their creativity, and it's usually their favorite part of this activity. The cars may then be tested and timed on the racetrack. Using multiple trials to find the average time for each student's car is a good way to encourage a mathematical, scientific way to compare the cars. The final part of the Pinewood Derby is we're going to look at the cars themselves, and here they are. And I think the cars are a pretty good expression of the creativity of students here. If we look at Laura's car, and we look at Melvin's car, and Leslie's Flower Power car. That's a good example of the way students get involved in their in hands-on activity and make it individual and unique. We also have some science involved here. Let's look at the formula that I have written on the board. The formula shows the basic formula for figuring distance equals rate times time. I have substituted letters there. Distance equals r times t, and then I have solved for rate by dividing the distance traveled by the time that it required to travel it. If we look at the track was 9.25 feet long. So to solve, all we have to do is to take that figure, 9.25, and we divide it by the time that each student took. So the first one, we divide by 1.47. And if you'll do that for me on the calculator, I think we've got that number. And what is that number, please?
6.29.
Okay. So Melvin travels 6.29 feet per second. Okay. And how fast? Go ahead and use the formula. How fast did Laura go?
5.93.
And how about Leslie?
5.35.
And each of these are in feet per second. Now, we can translate feet per second into miles per hour by using this basic equation. 60 miles per hour is 88 feet per second. You can get the idea. The rule of thumb is if you multiply your speed in miles per hour times 1.5 times 1.5, then you'll find out how many feet per second you're traveling. 60 times 1.5 is 90. That's a good rule of thumb. So, for instance, if you were doing 50 miles an hour, 50 times 1.5, what would that be, folks?
75.
75. You'd be traveling 75 feet per second. Well, if you travel 6.29 feet per second, how fast is that? Let's use the formula, and we'll say 60 is to 88 as, we'll put, we don't know, this is the unknown, and we'll take that, call that x, and we're going to divide by your time, 6.29. So we'll cross multiply 60 times 6.29 divided by 88. And I think we've got that already calculated. What is that result?
4.29 miles per hour.
Okay, so we find that Melvin was doing 4.29 miles per hour. So we'll write that in over here. Whoops, let's use the right color. And how fast was Laura doing? I've got it written on the chart.
4.04 miles per hour.
And how about Leslie?
3.65.
So, when we look at our Pinewood Derby results, we find that Melvin's car was fastest, and it was going about 4.29 miles per hour. Now, if a person walks at about 2.5 miles per hour, you're doing just about twice as fast as a person would be able to walk. Does that give you some idea about how fast your Pinewood Derby cars were going?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in fact, each of you were doing well over 2.5 miles an hour, so you couldn't walk as fast as your car was going.